Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gullen. And yes, for those of you watching on video, I'm wearing a Twins baseball cap because my buddy and pal, Tony Shore, is in Minnesota. And when the Royals and the Twins played, the Twins won the series. They didn't sweep it, but
Nope.
they did win the series.
No, Kansas won a game or two there. The
We won
Royals.
one game. It was a 3-game series.
Oh yeah, they won one of the three, which is yeah. I think they're pretty evenly matched teams. I watched
They
I
are.
watched 2 of the 3 games, and I thought,
They
wow, yeah,
They are. They are. Although we have made some changes, and our 2023 draft, Joe Caglione, got called up from AAA, and the Royals are playing St. Louis while we're recording this. Again, we record this about a week before y'all get to
yeah,
see it. And he had his first major league hit in his second game, and it was an RBI. Salvi had a hit before he did, and so he got to drive Salvi home.
nice.
It was
That's great.
good.
Yeah. Hopefully, the Royals will continue on. I don't know. I worry about my Twins, but we'll see.
Well, we played Detroit after we played you guys,
The
so
Tigers, yeah.
let's
Detroit,
see how that comes up on captioning
the
anyway.
the Detroit Tigers, as I call them. No,
Mhm.
that's bad. That's bad.
No, they have such a good team this year.
They do. They
So,
do. Yeah, they'll probably
but
win the division. So
all right,
that's the
before
way it
people
is.
think they tuned into a sports podcast, we
Yes,
probably got to start talking about today's topic,
which is,
which is women and the great wealth transfer.
huh? Yeah, I've heard of the Great Wealth Transfer. And how
Okay,
does
for
this?
those that haven't,
Sure.
the great wealth transfer is money that's coming from primarily baby boomers and the silent generation, which is the generation before baby boomers. It is going to be trickling down, well, actually more like a wave crashing in over the next 20 or so years
Yep.
to Gen X. We might finally get recognized for something.
Right. We're Gen X, right? Yeah.
Millennials and a little bit of Gen Z.
Hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
Over the next, they say by 2048. I mean, some numbers are 2035, some are 2048. That we're going to be looking at a transfer of about $124 trillion. Estimates
Wow.
are anywhere between 84 and 124, which that seems like a really broad estimate range, if you ask me.
Sure.
But then again, I went to engineering school, so I like my estimates to be a little bit more precise than that.
Right.
But the most interesting part of all of this is that women are going to be taking a much more active role in the investing. They are going to be the primary inheritors of all of this.
Yeah.
And some of that is because women outlive men. And so when women are inheriting when their husbands pass away.
Yep.
So once again, as Gen X, we get to wait a little while longer. They
Yeah.
call that the horizontal wealth transfer when it goes from one spouse to another.
Right.
95% of that horizontal transfer is going to be to women.
Yeah. Yep. Women outlive men, in a lot of cases, by as much as 6 years. Women typically
Yeah.
outlive men.
The
So
average is a little over 5.
yeah.
And so I was doing some research for today's podcast.
Okay.
And I think it was a USA Today article. I've got 3 articles in front of me. For those of you watching this on video instead of listening, I keep looking over to the side. No, I am not checking my phone. I have articles here. So,
Good. Good to
but
know.
USA Today article, or maybe it was Forbes. It was one of those two. Quoted, cited how much women have in investment dollars as compared to men. Okay. So for Caucasian, for white people, for every dollar that a man has invested, how much do you think a woman has invested? I'm putting you on the spot.
So for every dollar a man has invested, how much has a
That he's
woman?
controlling, that he's
Yeah.
controlling. Okay.
For every dollar?
Hmm.
I'd love to say it's dollar for dollar, but it probably isn't. 50 cents? Is it less?
No, it's 32 cents for
32 cents for every
that.
dollar.
Yeah, in terms of investments, it's not how
So
much they're investing compared to men, it's how much they control compared to
so
men.
so women control a third less than men do.
No, women control two-thirds less
Two
than men
two
do.
thirds less, I meant. Yeah, yeah, 2/3
Yes.
less. Wow.
Even
That's not
more
good.
even more disappointing, women of color, for every dollar that a white man manages investment-wise, 1 cent.
Oh, terrible.
Yes. I was shocked when I read that article.
Yeah, that's not good.
I mean, the 32 cents didn't surprise me. The 1 cent definitely surprised me.
Yeah.
And, as advisors, I mean, most of us as advisors know the statistic that when somebody loses a spouse, and we just said, more often than not, it's the husband that dies first. 70 to 80% of women will, within a year, move their accounts to a different investment advisor.
Hmm. So, yeah, the women seek help and
Mhm.
are better organized with finances typically than men, but yet they manage so much less.
They do.
It's
They
an
do. Now,
unfair juxtaposition there, or yeah,
w-
situation.
I have talked for years about how women run the day-to-day finances.
Yeah.
When we are doing strategy assessments with our clients or prospective clients, I've lost count of the number of times when we're talking to the husband on the phone and we're like, "Okay, now we're going to move to expenses. How much is your house payment every month? Honey, what's the mortgage? Honey, what do we spend on groceries?
Yep. Yep.
Honey, how much is car insurance?" But on the investment side of that,
It's
it's
the opposite.
the men that are calling the shots right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's the way every article I've read it points that out. That day-to-day finances, it's usually the wife or the woman,
mhm,
and in long-term investments, it's the guy. And I don't know why that stereotype exists, but it's true.
it is.
Yeah, I mean
It
there
is,
are
and
exceptions
it's
to every
there
every
there are.
stat, but those are the statistics. They show
There
that.
are, and it was the Forbes article, by the way, that quoted that statistic.
Oh, okay, sure.
And the other thing that they point out is that as women gain more and more control of the finances and the wealth, we're not talking about that day-to-day money. We're ta excuse me, we are talking about the wealth. We as women are really going to be shaping the economy and industries.
Yep.
It's a very interesting shift. I mean, it's almost seismic, even though it's going to happen over a period of 25-ish years.
Yeah, the great wealth transfer, the majority
Mm,
of that is going to end up in the hands of women, is what you're talking
mhm.
about here.
Right.
And that's a seismic shift from the way it's been.
It really is. In fact, this article also talks about how it could affect the different sectors that are invested in, that there could be more money put toward education and toward childcare and toward segments of the economy that cater primarily to women that
Or are concerns of women that men have typically
right,
ignored. Yeah,
right. But
is a
then
better way to put it.
as we're also looking at this, for the most part, it's women who shape the narrative of family history. It's the women who are telling the kids the stories. It's grandma who sits down with them and tells the stories. Um, it- Typically, men, fathers, grandfathers do things with the grandkids, whether it's fishing or a hobby, going to a ball game. I know this sounds really, really sexist, and I don't want it to, but it's kind of how we're wired. It's the grandmothers, the moms that are telling the stories to the daughters about, when I was young, I learned more about my grandmother's life in Italy and growing up from her than I learned from my dad.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yet
that's
it was
true.
my mom that told me about her side of the family.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same way. It's the same way in my family. Was the same way. I learned
Mhm.
about more about both sides of the family from my mom than I learned about from my dad's side.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, but, as women, there the shift is starting in the financial services industry. Obviously, Gradient has been, I think, at the forefront of all of this with supporting women who are in the industry. I know that they have a higher percentage of female agents that are affiliated with them than the national average.
Yeah.
And I think that
Or
is
that
in
other
part
companies that do the same thing. Yeah. They have
right.
their percentage of women advisors that they work with and women employees, both
Mhm.
great. Yeah.
And I mean, we have a phenomenal leader in Tammy Lucius. She
Yeah.
and her husband Chuck founded this company,
Yeah.
but Tammy was the one that looked at me. Gosh, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast. Back in, oh my goodness, I want to say it was 2011 or 2012. My ex-husband and I were part of the inaugural Operations University that they
Yeah.
taught, and Gradient didn't have their building yet, so the teaching was in a hotel, and then they threw us all on a bus, and we got to go out to Chuck and Tammy's house for dinner and to spend the evening. And Tammy and I were sitting on the couch. We had our feet stretched out because she had been on her feet all day. And she kind of nudged me with her leg, and she's like, you should be doing this. And she and other people like Sherry Mushel and Nikki Foley, they didn't give up until I went and got my licenses again.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, but as women reaching out to women and helping women,
With
women are
their
really
finances.
with their finances, women are really good studiers.
Yeah.
We're good students. I don't know where the word studiers came from. I'm
Yeah.
only halfway through my cup of coffee.
It could be a word. It could be a word.
We're going to
Yeah.
make it a word. I'm an
Yes.
English major. Okay. But, women are really good at educating themselves before they make a move into something. And, Forbes has this whole little action plan here, and it's educate yourself, think beyond personal gain. Women, especially especially women who are faith-based and who see this as an act of stewardship as well as managing those investments, tend to be a little bit more philanthropic. But there is so much that we can do with that wealth, not only passing a legacy on to our families, but also finding ways to support the communities around us and to support those who are at a disadvantage and give them an opportunity to have a hand up rather than a handout.
Yeah.
And of course, they also encourage you to get professional help. That's kind of why we're doing this podcast today. And they also encourage women to prepare the next generation. There are a lot of women over the next few years by 2030, women as a whole aggregately are going to inherit about $30 trillion. That's a whole lot of wealth transfer in the next 5 years.
Yeah, it is.
And there are not a large percentage of women that are prepared to be taking those reins. So if you know that you are one of the women that is probably going to be part of inheriting that 30 trillion, I encourage you now to start educating yourself, and to not only educate yourself, but to pass that on to the next generation, especially if you are somebody that is going to be part of the horizontal wealth transfer.
Yeah.
The greatest gift you can give your subsequent heirs is not the lump sum of cash, but the knowledge and the education of what to do with that cash, so that they are responsible with it, so that they don't end up as a statistic. We could almost equate this to people who win the lottery. And I mean, isn't it something like north of 90% of people who have a major windfall in the lottery within 5 years are broke
Yep. Flat broke, no matter the amount. It's crazy. And
because
so,
we don't know what to do with something. And psychologically, when something new comes our way and we don't know how to deal with it, we do things to get rid of it. And I know that doesn't make any sense.
it's true though. Human nature, right? It's human
Well, I
nature.
mean,
And they're not going out and getting a trusted financial professional. I mean, if I
right.
won the lottery, I'd give Barb Gullen a call. I'd just pick up the phone, call
And
Barb
I
and
would
say,
take your phone call, and I would say, "Please tell me that if you won the lottery, you bought your ticket in Kansas, because then you can claim it anonymously, and you won't have random people coming out of the woodwork asking you for loans."
right, that's the problem. Yeah, that's part of the problem. People come out of the woodwork and need money.
And you don't know how to say no, because you, after all, just got this windfall, and people will prey on you and say you have an obligation to share the wealth. And I'm not saying don't be generous. I
Yeah,
am saying be smart.
yeah,
And
true.
sometimes you need a third party that could get in and say, "No, I really don't think you ought to put this amount of money into this business that has no business plan, just because it's your cousin and they have a great idea. And he claims that he saved you from drowning when you were both 12 years old."
Yeah,
So,
these things happen. These things happen. It happens. Sure.
but it's exciting to think about this wealth transfer.
Hmm.
But this is also my moment where I am reaching out to you, my fellow women, and encouraging you to educate yourselves, be prepared. Um, the baby boomers and the silent generation are not really good about talking about money.
True.
They aren't necessarily going to tell you everything that you have or that they have. And if they don't have it documented well, number one, it's going to take you a lot of work to dig through and find it all. Number two, it could be lost and go unclaimed. Um, going back to the whole lottery thing again, I have a Facebook friend who about once a month posts um, the state when somebody wins the lottery. They post where the ticket came from, and you only have like a year or 6 months to claim some of these
Hmm.
prizes. I don't know. I
Yep.
don't play the lottery that often.
I don't either.
Um, um, and if it goes unclaimed, you could have won $1 million. And if you don't claim it in time, you lost it.
Yeah. Wow.
Same thing with insurance policies and other investments. Now, the good news is that most of the states have unclaimed property websites where you can go in and do that search.
Yep.
But my goal is to help you not have to um, use those unclaimed property sites to find
Yeah,
what.
keep track of it, keep it
Right,
active, and keep
right.
your money working for you rather than let it just sit and get lost somewhere.
Right. And, we have published a book called When I Die, Look Here First that can help you keep a hard copy of all of those records. Because something that most people don't know is that when somebody dies, when we as advisors notify the custodians that somebody has passed away, the accounts are frozen until they can establish who the trustee or who the appropriate executor of the estate is.
Right.
So having a hard copy of it with account numbers put in a secure place so that if somebody breaks into your house, they cannot literally walk away with everything.
Right.
Um, but it helps. We're coming out with a new edition, and we're calling this new edition Relax, I Left Instructions.
Ah, I like that.
Yeah. We are finishing that up this week. And actually, by the time this podcast goes live, it will hopefully be live on Amazon,
Awesome.
giving you a place to document things like who your healthcare professionals are, who your financial professionals are, um, passwords to websites, where the safe deposit box is, and where you have the safe deposit box key,
Yeah.
the password or where the key location is for the gun safe that may or may not have guns in it. A lot of people put gold and other precious metals and other important papers and things in those safes, as well as an opportunity to journal about your childhood and your life, where I'm looking at you guys out there. You could get a chance to tell your side of the story before your wife or mother tells it first. Just saying. Um, but as we're looking at this wealth transfer, it's important that we understand that you're not only transferring money, this is an opportunity for you to impart values to the next generation
Yeah.
and to keep the family history and the identity of who you are as a family.
It's important.
It is.
Yeah. It's huge. Well, I think that's great. And the book that you have coming out, what's the title again?
It's called Relax, I Left Instructions.
Relax, I Left Instructions. I'm going to get a copy of that. I can't wait.
I'll make sure you get one, Tony.
All right. Thanks, Barb. Well, great show today. Women and the great wealth transfer. There's a lot to think about here. And for everyone out there, all our listeners and viewers, I think it's important. The key is having a plan in place and having a trusted financial advisor to help you with these things. So, Barb, before we go, remind our listeners once again how they can get a hold of you to set up that no charge, no obligation consultation.
They can always find us at our website, bgwealthmanagement.com. And you also have the opportunity there to listen to past episodes of this podcast or connect on our YouTube channel where you can see some of these videos and see me in my twins hat. Anyway, I was a good sport about it.
You were
You
great.
also got me a very stylish hat, so I will give you credit for that.
Yeah, I got you. I got you a good one.
You did. Or you can always call our offices at area code 913-553-6222. Select option 4 for appointments and scheduling. And if Christina doesn't grab it, she'll call you right back, get you on the calendar to talk with either myself or one of our other qualified fiduciaries here in the office and help you make sure that the legacy you leave is the legacy you intended.
Nice. That's great, Barb. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barbara Gullen.
We'll see you soon.